Stand in Times Square on a Friday night or push into a Tokyo subway car at rush hour, and your body will tell you something your mind believes without question. Too many people, not enough room, a planet running out of space. Now, do an experiment. Close your eyes and imagine dropping a pin at random anywhere on Earth. Not a city, not a country, just a random set of coordinates, chosen blind. Where do you land? Almost certainly nowhere. Open ocean, most likely. And if it's land, the odds say empty land. No roads, no lights, no people for miles. The crowd you just imagined in Times Square isn't a sample of the planet. It's one of the rarest places on it. Here's the number that breaks the intuition completely. If every human alive today stood shoulder to shoulder at the density of a packed city block, all 8 billion of us would fit inside New Zealand. Every other country on Earth, every continent, every ocean would sit there untouched. That's not a metaphor, that's arithmetic. So if the planet feels full, the planet isn't the problem. Something else is going on. Start with the basics because they're stranger than they sound. Earth is a 510 million square kilometer sphere, and 71% of that is ocean, water that no one lives on, stretching farther than any coastline can promise. Already, most of the planet is gone before a single person shows up. What's left is the 29% we call land, and it feels reasonable to assume that's where everyone's spread out evenly, filling in coastlines and plains and valleys until the whole surface was covered. That assumption is wrong, and it's wrong by a wide margin. Take Antarctica first. It's larger than the entire continental United States, and it holds no permanent population at all. Just a rotating handful of researchers, camped like temporary visitors on a landmass that was never meant to be lived on. Now go north. Siberia and the Canadian boreal forest together form a belt of trees so large it wraps around a third of the globe, and across nearly all of it, you could walk for a week and meet no one. Then there are the deserts. The Sahara alone is roughly the size of the United States, a rock and sand expanse where life clings to a scattering of oases and nothing else. The Gobi, the Arabian interior, the dead center of Australia, a continent where more than 4 out of every 5 people live packed against the coastline, leaving an entire nation's worth of red dust in the middle with almost nobody in it. Add the mountains, the Andes, the Himalayas, the Rockies, where the air gets too thin and the ground too steep for a town to take root. Add the rainforests, the Amazon and the Congo, each one larger than most countries, both nearly invisible from above once you look for signs of settlement instead of trees. Stack all of that together, the ice, the desert, the mountains, the jungle, and a picture starts to form. Most of Earth's land was never really available to us. It was always going to sit empty, not because we chose to leave it, but because it never let us in. So where did everyone actually go? Into an almost absurdly small number of places. More than half the people on this planet live on roughly 1% of its land. Not 1% of the usable land, 1% of everything, oceans included. The Ganges River plain in India, the Yangtze and Pearl River deltas in China, the narrow strip along America's east coast. These slivers of geography hold hundreds of millions of lives stacked into towers, while land just a few hundred kilometers away sits in near total silence. This is why the feeling of crowding is so convincing. It's not fake, it's just local. You've never actually stood in the empty 99%, so your mind has no evidence it exists. Every subway car, every rush hour, every headline about housing prices comes from the same 1% everyone else lives in too. Your sample size is a rounding error, and it happens to be the loudest rounding error on the planet. Think about your own life for a moment. Every person you've ever met, every apartment you've ever viewed, every traffic jam you've ever sat through, all of it happened inside that same sliver of geography. You've spent your entire existence sampling from the densest 1% of the Earth's surface and mistaking it for the whole planet. Almost nobody builds their sense of scale by wandering the Mongolian steppe or the Canadian tundra, because almost nobody goes there. We build it standing in line at a coffee shop, and that line was never a fair sample of a world where the median square kilometer holds no one at all. Even the images that are supposed to show us the whole Earth reinforce the illusion. Satellite photos of the world at night look like the entire globe is glowing, wired end to end with civilization, but a single light bulb is visible from space for miles around it. A handful of scattered towns can look, from orbit, like an unbroken web of cities. Turn the lights off or look at the same regions in daylight, and the glow dissolves into thin threads of settlement surrounded by enormous darkness. Media makes the illusion worse, not because it's lying, but because it's aiming a camera at the only places where anything happens. A news crew doesn't fly out to film an empty stretch of the Australian outback or a silent valley in the Andes, because nothing there generates a headline. Every story, every image, every viral clip is drawn from the same small, loud fraction of the world. Over time, that fraction starts to feel like the whole story, simply because it's the only story we're ever shown. But here's the twist that makes this more than a fun fact. A species can occupy almost none of a planet and still reshape all of it. We don't need to live somewhere to change it. The timber comes from forests no city dweller will ever walk through. The carbon drifts from a handful of dense industrial clusters into an atmosphere that covers everywhere at once. The warming reaches glaciers that have never seen a human footprint. Our physical footprint is microscopic. Our influence is not. That's the paradox nobody quite prepares you for. Total geographic concentration paired with near total planetary consequence. So the next time the world feels unbearably full, remember what's true just past the edge of your city lights. Somewhere out there, right now, is a stretch of tundra or desert or rainforest canopy, larger than the country you live in, where no human being has set foot this year. The Earth was never crowded. We just built a few extraordinary rooms and decided, almost all of us, to live in the same ones. What feels like an overcrowded planet is really just a lightly populated one, viewed entirely from inside its smallest, densest corner.